around 6 years before Nick
6 years ago.
6 years ago, Nick was diagnosed with a mental illness called schizoaffective disorder, which results in hallucinations, delusions. Also, there are mood disorders like mania.
Severe depression.
Yeah.
Also part of.
According to sources with direct knowledge of the case, Nick Reiner's mental and emotional unraveling, which allegedly led to the tragic deaths of his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, may be closely linked to a major change in his health and medication. These sources told TMZ that Nick had been struggling for years with drug abuse and serious mental health challenges.
Severe depression.
Yeah.
Also part of it, yeah.
And that he was being treated for that. He got a drug that stabilized that mental illness.
Cocktail of drugs.
Yes.
And he was doing well until a month before the murders.
A month before the murder.
Long before the events that shocked the world. The latest TMZ documentary, The Reiner Murders: What Really Happened, explores this darker side of Nick's life, showing how things slowly spiraled out of control. Around 2020, Nick was reportedly diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a complex mental illness that can cause intense symptoms such as delusions, hallucinations, extreme mood swings, manic behavior, and deep depression. According to insiders, he was placed on medication that helped stabilize him, and for a long time, those medications were working. However, they also caused noticeable weight gain, which is a common side effect of many psychiatric drugs.
He was doing well until a month before the murders.
A month before the murders, we are told doctors changed his meds, and that's when he started going off the rails.
Very alarming behavior. Even the word dangerous was used, that he was dangerous, and his parents were aware of this. They were watching this happen.
We're told that Nick became deeply unhappy about this change in his body and repeatedly complained to his doctors. About a month before the murders, his medical team reportedly changed his medication in response to those concerns. Sources claim that this decision may have disrupted the stability he had finally achieved. After the medication switch, those close to him say his behavior began to change, his mental state appeared to decline, and things became increasingly unpredictable.
We asked our sources, why did they change the meds if the meds were working? The answer we got back was, we can't tell you that right now, but when you find out what it is, you are going to be shocked, saying there is no justification for it in their view, and that it defies logic, and it's not something you could guess.
While none of this proves what happened or why, it adds another complicated layer to an already tragic story. It raises difficult questions about mental health treatment, medication management, and how fragile stability can be for people dealing with serious psychological conditions. As this case continues to unfold, many are now wondering whether warning signs were missed and whether this heartbreaking outcome could have been prevented. Sources tell TMZ that after Nick Reiner's medication was changed, he entered an increasingly erratic and dangerous state. According to insiders, his behavior became unpredictable, and those closest to him noticed alarming changes that seemed to intensify as the days went on. Rob and Michelle Reiner were reportedly aware of their son's struggles, but they didn't know how to help or what steps to take.
Went off the rails, that they never tried to get him in a psychiatric facility during that month, and that is why when Alan Jackson, his former lawyer, went before the media after the hearing yesterday, after he withdrew from the case, he said Nick Reiner will be found not guilty by a jury. And
pursuant to California law.
And the code for that is not guilty.
Sources also claim that doctors did not attempt to place Nick on a temporary psychiatric hold, a legal tool in California that can last up to 14 days and is sometimes used to stabilize someone experiencing a severe mental health crisis. By the time of the tragic events, multiple sources say Nick was completely disconnected from reality. The situation was so serious that his former attorney, Alan Jackson, indicated that the defense intended to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. Experts and insiders now suggest that Nick may not even be competent to stand trial at this time. Those close to the case say that while he is aware that his parents are dead, he believes his incarceration is the result of a conspiracy against him rather than the result of his own actions. Behind the walls of the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, sources say he remains in a fragile and confused mental state, grappling with the consequences of events that have already irreversibly changed his life and the lives of his family. This adds yet another layer of complexity to an already devastating case, highlighting how mental illness, medication, and family dynamics intersect in ways that can be tragically unpredictable. In other news, Dr. Drew Pinsky has weighed in on the controversial handling of Nick Reiner's mental health in the weeks leading up to the deaths of his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner. Speaking on TMZ Live, Dr. Drew said that the decision to change Nick's medication may have contributed to the rapid deterioration of his mental state.
So, Harvey, you said we can't guess why he came off the meds?
I can't. I
I'm
can't.
gonna guess. Yeah, I'm gonna guess a couple things. Because people with psychotic disorders commonly either stop their meds or refuse to take their meds or manipulate their psychiatrist into changing because of a variety of symptoms, some of them quite legitimate. It's very unpleasant sometimes to be sort of pushed down with these antipsychotic medication. And we're always, as clinicians, trying to find something that controls the symptoms but doesn't make them miserable. I mean, it might have been a reasonable move. It was the wrong move, it turned out, but it might have been reasonable at the time.
Wait a minute, you're insinuating that you have some theories on why a doctor would change those meds if they had.
According to sources, Nick had been stable on his prescribed medications for schizoaffective disorder for months, but about a month before the tragic events, doctors adjusted his prescriptions to accommodate concerns he had raised about side effects, including weight gain. Dr. Drew explained that while it is common for doctors to change medication when patients are struggling with side effects or stress, it doesn't always produce the desired results. Sources tell TMZ that after the medication change, Nick reportedly went into a downward spiral, and doctors did not place Nick on a temporary psychiatric hold, which could have lasted up to 14 days and is sometimes used to stabilize someone experiencing a severe mental health crisis.
Drew, that you want to help the patient, and the patient comes in and says, "This isn't working for me." But at the point where doctors or people around the patient are seeing behavior that, as in this case, which we heard was alarming, dangerous, does it not become beholden upon the physician to say this person should be in a facility?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, in California, you can't do that.
By the time of the tragic events, multiple sources say Nick was completely disconnected from reality. The situation was so serious that his former attorney, Alan Jackson, indicated that the defense intended to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. Experts and insiders now suggest that Nick may not even be competent to stand trial at this time. Those close to the case say that while he is aware that his parents are dead, he believes his incarceration is the result of a conspiracy against him rather than the result of his own actions. Behind the walls of the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, sources say he remains in a fragile and confused mental state, grappling with the consequences of events that have already irreversibly changed his life and the lives of his family. This adds yet another layer of complexity to an already devastating case, highlighting how mental illness, medication, and family dynamics intersect in ways that can be tragically unpredictable. In other news, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman has made it clear that prosecutors remain confident a jury will ultimately find Nick Reiner guilty of murdering his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, regardless of who represents him in court. The case took a dramatic turn when high-profile attorney Alan Jackson abruptly stepped away from Nick's defense, citing circumstances that were entirely beyond Nick's control. In a brief news conference, Jackson stressed one point with absolute certainty: Nick Reiner is not guilty of murder. He explained that the legal and ethical reasons behind his withdrawal prevented him from sharing further details, but his statement left many questioning the next steps in the case. TMZ previously reported that Nick had been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a serious mental illness, and that issues surrounding his medication could form the basis of a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. These medical and psychological factors are now central to the legal strategy and the public's understanding of the case. A spokesperson for the Reiner family released a statement regarding the sudden change in legal representation, saying that the family has the utmost trust in the legal process and would not comment further on matters related to the proceedings. Multiple sources confirmed to the New York Times that the change in attorneys had nothing to do with Jackson's abilities. He had been a skilled and professional advocate, but instead reflected circumstances outside of anyone's control. Nick's new attorney is public defender Kimberly Green, a seasoned lawyer with 19 years of experience. The judge approved the change in legal counsel and set a new arraignment date for February 23rd. In court, Nick himself briefly spoke, saying, yeah, I agree with that," signaling his acceptance of the new arrangements. With a new attorney, ongoing questions about his mental health, and a potential plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, the case is far from straightforward. The combination of legal strategy, psychiatric evaluations, and complex family dynamics makes this one of the most closely watched and complicated criminal cases in recent years. While prosecutors insist they have a strong case, Nick's defense is starting fresh, reviewing evidence and preparing arguments from the ground up. As this legal battle slowly unfolds, the public is left watching a case that is equal parts tragedy, mystery, and a tense legal chess match.